Welcome to this episode of the Weekly Word. Father Ed Estock.
Father Dominic.
And Father Michael.
As you can see, we're in an eclipsy mood, and we have come to open our eyes and maybe yours to the presence of the Lord Jesus in our Sunday scriptures coming up for the third Sunday in Easter season, and we are contemplating the encounter with Jesus and the response or the reaction. So maybe, I don't know, Father Michael, you want to pick it up?
The gospel picks up from last week, where we heard the Emmaus story with the disciples now returning back to Jerusalem, having encountered Jesus, to share that good news with the others who are still locked in the upper room hiding. They return back with the good news that Jesus is risen, and it was indeed in the breaking of the bread, this very familiar ritual act, place of communion that he had just given them on Holy Thursday, that they recognized him. And I think it shows us many things, one of it being the proper response, reaction to encountering Jesus, especially in a particular way in Holy Communion, in the communion of the church, is to share that with others, to tell others the good news, and want to share that joy with them and bring them into the same communion with Jesus.
Yeah, we had been reflecting on the fact that these two disciples were, in a sense, fleeing from Jerusalem when Jesus encountered them on the road. So you remember the story of Emmaus. And so they got all the way to Emmaus, and then the disciples encountered Jesus in the breaking of the bread. And what do? They, with newfound courage and enthusiasm and faith and whatever else, life, they turn around, and now it's already late in the day. So this was not going to be an easy trip back, because, at night, the wild animals come out, the robbers and the thieves and all that kind of stuff. And they turned and they ran back into the fray in Jerusalem, where they were, they had previously been fleeing. So the encounter with Jesus can invigorate us or enthuse us, which is the Greek, the root word for that is to put God in us, to get us to go back and to confront our biggest fears. So,
yeah, and it is in, as we're saying, it is in this encounter with Christ that compels us, and so it's only in a profound encounter with Christ, our living and loving God, that we can be filled with this fervor to share it, to live out this joy, to live in a different way, in a more profound way than the rest of people in the world. And so this should hopefully challenge us to go back to our prayer life and see, is my prayer life fostering an encounter with Christ, or is my prayer life just some either and there's a lot of different ways that a lot of pitfalls that we could fall into a prayer life. So it could be very cerebral, just reading the scriptures and theologizing, or it could be kind of more reflective. But there's a lot of ways that we could pray that we take out Jesus, and in those, if we're praying that way, then that's going to really hurt our lived life and our spiritual life. And so recently I've been trying to, in my daily prayer, bring Jesus into my prayer time, because I've found myself, praying, and then I'm like, that's some nice quiet time, but I have actually left out Jesus. And maybe I'm praying with God the Father, maybe I'm asking for the Holy Spirit, but without inviting Jesus in there, I find that prayer time really doesn't fully or as effectively fill me with, that divine encounter, hopefully the joy and the peace that prayer really should give us.
As I'm listening to you, I hadn't necessarily thought of it. I wonder to what extent our praying is really a medication for us against the difficulty and the danger of life. So that how much do we sit around begging God to heal me, get me out of this problem, solve the problem, so that, instead of like these disciples, is our prayer an invitation to encounter Jesus, that then we can go and deal courageously and lovingly with the difficulty of life. So I hadn't thought about that, but spirituality a lot of times probably is an escape from uh, you know the upper room where the Jews are going to come after us and crucify us too. We might be constantly using religion as an escape from engaging with the world, and we're expecting God to protect us rather than God to, I don't enthuse us and invigorate us. So I'm also this Easter time thinking about those I am statements of Jesus, and that Jesus is identifying himself as God. And so in this particular case, we see, he took the bread and the wine and he said, "This is my body." So he gave it to the disciple and said, "This is my body. So in this bread, you should see me." And so then we see these Emmaus guys saying, in the breaking of the bread, we saw not the bread, but we saw him. So they are making the identification that Jesus is the bread broken. It's all the Holy Eucharist. And so I'm also wondering if when we come to Mass, particularly, and we come to receive Holy Communion, and I know I see a lot of people are beating their breasts and making the sign of the cross and making acts of reverence and devotion to the Holy Eucharist. What I'm hoping is that we are seeing there Jesus, that we're not allowing this great and powerful sacrament, the most blessed sacrament. We get all worked up about it, which is fine. That's awe and reverence. But are we seeing it as Jesus saying, "Come, don't be afraid, don't be falling down"? I had a conversation with somebody. He started kneeling down to receive Holy Communion. And so, as a pastor, I had this conversation. I said, "Can you tell me what are you doing? Why are you doing it?" He said, "Well, I decided that if I ran into Jesus, I wouldn't stand there, reach out and shake his hand. I would fall down and kiss his feet." I said, "Oh, so that's what I'm doing." I said, "Oh, that's interesting." I don't know if, when I see Jesus with Mary Magdalene, right? She's throwing herself on him and grabbing his legs, probably. I don't know what he's doing. And, he says to her, "Listen, hey, get up, get away from me. Do not cling to me. This isn't about me. This is about God and what we are called to do in the world." So, I hope we're not missing, what did they say that about the trees in the forest?
You can't see the trees through the forest.
You can't see the forest for the trees, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
I think you get stuck on the trees and you don't notice the whole forest. I'm hoping that maybe in this Easter time and in this Eucharistic revival, by the way, we're having a great lecture this coming Thursday, the 18th of April,
which is the following.
Yes. So after this Sunday's preaching, we're going to have a great lecture on the last one of our Eucharistic Revival lecture series. A sister, a Grace of Mary from the Mercedarian Sisters, is going to come and give our final lecture. So maybe in this Eucharistic time, we could, do we see Jesus as God, as the bread of life, as Holy Communion? You know, so are we keeping the pieces together? Are we, you know, off in our heads and I don't know what else? All right. So I don't know if you all saw the sun. We were really looking for it, and we are hoping that you're going to see the sun in the Holy Eucharist on this third Sunday of Easter. All right. Peace.
See ya.